as many of y'all already know, bruh, Gachiakuta is my current favorite ongoing manga. Well, I would say Berserk and, Kagurabachi, but Gachiakuta is that for me. It's just been insanely consistent for me since it came out, so that's why it's my current favorite ongoing manga. But for the first time, we are doing the highly requested character-centered videos. Now, the reason I haven't done this often is because for majority of the characters, we don't really have enough info on them. But there is one who without a doubt has grown tremendously and deserves the spotlight of the first character dive, and that is our very own Rudo. As y'all know, man, I'm DomoSenpai, and today we are talking about the big dog himself and just how much he's grown as a character throughout the series thus far. If y'all are new to the channel and have yet to subscribe, make sure y'all go down below, hit the link in the description or the red subscribe button. Either one to help me towards my cause of reaching my goal, which is 10,000 subscribers. I know I said something wild, which was 100,000 for the end of the year, but I really need to get to 10,000 just so I can go into cruise control, because that is the first big hurdle for any well, technically 1,000 is the first big hurdle for any content creator who is covering things that they love and not just doing it for the status. But 10K is where we really shine. But back to the topic at hand, Rudo's journey isn't just, the typical revenge tropey slog that many of them are. It's more about the evolution of his character and the journey of not only discovering who he really is, but becoming something much more than himself. So make sure y'all grab something to eat and get comfortable, because the Yap Fest is about to begin. Before we jump into how Rudo has grown as a character, we have to go back to where he started, the origin of things. When we first met Rudo, he's full of anger, resentment, and frustration. But to be honest though, that makes sense, right? Think about it. As we got to know him, we learned that he was abandoned, treated like trash, literally, and was living in the slums, who were looked down upon, being referred to as tribesfolk, not to mention the scarring on his hands and people calling him the son of a murderer. You couldn't blame him for being the bundle of rage that we knew him as. But what was his defining trait? Rudo had this weird, uncanny sense of justice where he wasn't the type to sit back and accept the cruel hand that was dealt to him. Yet, he did it in quite the angry fashion. He's got a fire burning within him, and he's ready to set the heavens ablaze to protect the ones he cares about. But the flip side of that same anger often clouds his judgment. And at first, y'all know better than me that Rudo was more about revenge than actually understanding anything about the world going on around him and how it works. And that is where we get into the defining moments that I like to refer to as turning points. I'm sorry, Mushoku Tensei, I had to steal that from you. Now, here's where things got interesting. For me, there were several turning points for our young protagonist, but the main one we'll be talking about is obviously him falling into the abyss, literally and metaphorically. This was his first step towards realizing that the world is far bigger and more complicated than he could ever imagine. Meeting Engine and the cleaners opened his eyes to the fact that there's so much more at play than just the Celestials oppressing his people above. You know what I mean? They were also polluting the surface and creating so many other problems that what Rudo was worried about at first was just a small fish in a big pond, my brother. This turning point showed us that Rudo is, not just some idiot. Well, I mean, he's still an idiot, but he's not just some idiot. He can adapt to the situations around him. And instead of allowing the abyss to crush him, he's used it as an opportunity to grow. Don't get it twisted. His anger is still there, but as of now, it's starting to get channeled into something far better than just revenge. A few other turning points, in my opinion, that I'd like to mention, and we're not going to go into them deeply, but they were meeting Amo and what that whole situation devolved into, going to Canvas Town for the second time and finding out about his lineage, the battle with Zodil and the Big Trash Beast, which was symbolic of him no longer being alone in this world since meeting Engine and the crew, and lastly, in my opinion, one of the most pivotal ones, meeting Kuro and learning about his ancestor, Canis Sherbrick. These were all turning points that helped stimulate Rudos' growth as a character and the progression of the story as we know today. The fascinating thing about Rudos' growth is it's not just about becoming stronger, as we see with most protagonists in the shonen demographic. And as a side note, just thought I would say this is a weekly reminder that shonen is not a genre, it's a demographic. Anyway, moving on. Rudos' growth is also about learning to shoulder the responsibilities that come with his development. We see this through his evolving relationships with the cleaners, and especially Engine. To me, Engine is the most important character next to Rudo, but that is a different story for another day. Engine becomes his mentor and more of a big brother than anything. And through their interactions, Rudo starts to learn that protecting others means more than just beating the crud out of somebody like he did to Amo during that arc. It means understanding them, understanding the issues of the ground, and knowing when to channel his anger. Rudo also begins to understand that his personal grudge against the Celestials isn't going to be enough to accomplish what Recto told him before he was dropped into the abyss, and that, for lack of a better term, is changing the shitty world. I do believe he said cruddy world or something similar to that that wasn't as graphic as what I said, but I like shitty world because it makes sense to me. He needs allies, information, and above all, a greater purpose than just vengeance. One of the central themes of Gachiakuta, and it's one that I mention on a fucking weekly basis, is how trash, whether it be discarded objects, people, or even ideals, can find a new purpose. Rudo's character is the very embodiment of this theme, and it is done in such a graceful fashion. He starts as someone that the Celestials threw away, and so far, throughout his journey, he's learned how to take what's broken, whether it's his own spirit or, the things that are around him, and turn it into something far more powerful than even he has realized. And funny enough, his ever-evolving Jinky, the 3 R's, is quite the metaphor for this. When we are first introduced to it, it was raw and unrefined. Y'all remember how Engine reacted when he first seen it, right? It was raw and unrefined, just like he was. But as he matures, he learns the ins and outs of it. Sure, he hasn't mastered it yet, but he's well on his way, turning what others see as worthless into something invaluable. That, to me, is real growth, finding worth in what seems broken and discarded. Rudo's journey is far from over, and as we progress even further into the plot of Gachiakuta, I think we'll see him continue to evolve, both emotionally and mentally. What I love about Rudos' growth, and it's something I brag about all the time, is that it feels organic as fuck. He's not just leveling up because the plot demands it. His growth comes from real shit, like life lessons and deepening the relationships with the people around him. So what do y'all think, man? How long is it before Rudo takes his fight to the Celestials? How far can he go in attempting to change this shitty world? Make sure y'all let me know in the comment section below. Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. This video was something that was a long time in the making, but I just had to find the right groove to write this out. See what I did there? I used right and right in the right way. I like that. Anyway, at the end of the day, Rudo is one of, if not my favorite character in Gachiakuta. He's tied with Engine, whom I'm really looking forward to doing a character analysis on as well. I may do a follow-up video to this in regards to going over specific moments and detailing them even more. I didn't want this to be too overbearing and too long, so I took a very careful approach to what I used in regards to moments and things like that. By the way, I'm starting a podcast at some point. I've been mulling over the names, and I think I've finally come to terms with which one I really like, so more about that in the coming future. I hope y'all learned a bit more about Rudo and his growth from this video. Y'all already know that this is the home of Gachiakuta, and I will do everything in my power to drop more videos on it as we inch closer and closer to the release of the anime. Anyway, I'm gonna get out of here and get to editing this video. As y'all know, man, I'm DomoSenpai, and I'm gonna catch y'all in the next one. Be easy.